What is going on, everybody? Matt Smito here with the weekly Mad Podcast. Yes, it is the second podcast, and I'm surprised I made it to number two. So, in this week's Talk Nerdy to Me, as you can see from the title, tonight's topic is anime without source magna. Better or not? Now, it took me all week to decide what my second podcast was going to be about. I mean, I had some requests that I continue on with the Harry Potter theme, but I didn't want to keep doing Harry Potter every single time. I don't want to alienate certain fans who want to see other topics because this is Talk Nerdy to Me. Nerdy counts as fantasy, supernatural, sci-fi. In this case, anime, which is sort of fantasy, I guess. And so, anyway, anime without source manga. Typically, anime is based off some sort of type of Japanese comic, which is called manga, and they adapt it to the live action, not live action, but animation. And typically, it stays true to the source material with a few creative liberties. But then there are certain animes who have no novel manga source material at all. And I selected two of these because these two are in my top 10 anime list, which, as you can see by the screen title, it is Samurai Champloo and Death Parade. Now, before I get started with the details, warning, spoilers, because I will be talking about each anime, the characters, and how they are similar but different at the same time. So, let's begin here. The first one would be Samurai Champloo. Samurai Champloo was actually made and produced and directed by the same guy who did Cowboy Bebop. Now, I know what you're going to say. Wait a minute, isn't Cowboy Bebop also an anime without source manga? Why are you not talking about Cowboy Bebop? Because, you know what? Everybody knows Cowboy Bebop. Everybody loves Cowboy Bebop. It's an anime that doesn't have really a big storyline, but has a lot of personal character stories, which, you know what? I love. But you know what? Cowboy Bebop, that could be its own podcast alone. How much just you could talk about that. But don't get me wrong, Samurai Champloo also has a lot too. But I believe this is the best comparison to the other anime, which I'm going to be talking about in a little bit, Death Parade. Samurai Champloo is set in an alternate version of like the Edo era in Japan, more or less 1600s, like 1600 to 1800, with the anarchy kind of like hip hop setting. That's the unique thing about this. Sorry about that. I was checking on my audio. I think my audio is good. Let me just double check it real quick. And let me see here. Test. Yeah. Everything looks good. I mean, I'm not seeing any issues about that. Okay. Now, back to my little script that I wrote here. Anyway, like I said, it's like a hip hop sort of meets. It's an alternate universe for sure. But if you ever seen Samurai Champloo, there's a lot of things that are more advanced than that typical time era, especially with, let's say, fireworks or firearms, and basically the style of fighting. Speaking of which, it was also dubbed in English and produced by Jinon Entertainment, which was awesome. It's one of the few animes that I say it is as good sub as it's dubbed. It was just, it was really good for its dubbing. Now, according to the director, the series is set roughly 60 years after the end of what's called the Sengoku period, which, I'm not too familiar with, but it's more like historical samurai-based backdrops with, but in this case, it has more modern style mixed with the historical style. And, it starts basically with the main characters. Fu, which is a 15-year-old girl who is looking for the samurai who smells of sunflowers. When she was young, her father left her and her mother for some reason. Nobody actually knows what the reason was at all in the end. Without her father around to support them, Fu and her mother led a very hard life until actually her mother died of illness. And after a not so successful string of jobs, especially at a tea house, being a waitress, a dancer, that's how, and she ended up meeting Mugen and Jin, which is the other two main characters of this anime. Mugen is actually a vagabond, not technically a samurai, not even a ronin. He actually comes from prison, which is a penal colony of the Riku Islands. He's 19 years old, even though he doesn't look like it, and he fights in a way out of the top, unconventional fighting style. He's rude, he's lewd, he's vulgar, he's conceited, he has a temper, and he's a little bit psycho. And he's somewhat seen as a bit of an anti-hero. He loves his fighting, and he has a better idea of himself than most people do. He does wear traditional yuka and get a Japanese attire. Geta's the wooden shoes, but unlike other samurai, the bottom of his shoes, his sole, is covered in complete metal. It combines with his style. Like if he's on his back and swords come down on him, he can actually lift up his shoe and block the sword strike because he has metal in the bottom. It's actually pretty cool. Okay, let me see here. I'm just double checking. Everything's looking good. I'm really happy that this podcast equipment's actually working. Well, anyway, like I said, the story starts with him going into the tea house, and things happen really badly, but we'll get to that in a moment. The third and last character is Jin. He's 20 years old, and he's also a ronin who carries himself in a very traditional, conventional manner of a samurai from the Tokugawa era, basically. He has a daisho sword, which is a bit of a longer type style of katana, and he fights in the traditional style of kenjutsu, which is the sword style of a samurai. Actually, his backstory a little bit is he's actually pursued by several members of the dojo where he learned to be a samurai for killing his master. But, it's a whole story in self-defense. The unique thing about him, even though they say that this is traditional mixed with a little bit modern hip-hop era, he wears glasses, which is an available commodity, but sort of uncommon in the Edo era of Japan. They call them spectacles, also called Dutch glass merchandising, because they were trading with the Dutch. That's how they end up with black powder, which that's how they called gunpowder back then. But basically, he doesn't need them, because later on in the show, you realize that Mugen looks through his glasses like, wait a minute, you ain't blind. It's more of a trick. He makes you think that he can't see well, and so he has holes in his defense, which actually he does not. So it's actually pretty cool. Just like other traditional animes, it follows a good storyline, good character development, and I think pays off the end. Another thing these two animes have in common is that they're both one season. And that's a whole nother podcast topic that I'm going to talk about. One-shot anime seasons that are meant to be one-shot. Not the ones that were just canceled because they weren't that good. But true one-season animes that were meant from episode 1 to the last episode. And it's just, mwah. These two are perfect examples of it. So, ironically enough, the two source material, no source material animes are actually one-season animes, which they were meant to be one-season animes. It's just that good. Okay, we touched the topic of Samurai Champloo for a moment. Let me introduce Death Parade, one of my personal top 3 favorites because it is pure psychological anime. It's over the top, it's mind-blowing, and it takes like 2 episodes to fully understand what's going on. Because the first episode is played, and the second episode is played, but sort of in the background of episode 1, which is just pure amazingness. It was actually spawned off a short film, Death Billiards, which is another way of saying pool. Like, it was like we call them OVAs, like one-shot animated, like one episode, basically. And it was well received so much, they decided to do a 1 season out of it. Believe it or not, it did really well here in North America than actually Japan. I guess, I don't know, in Japan, maybe they just didn't want to talk about the moral of the anime. I don't know, maybe I don't know. But that's just well known about that. The the whole plot of it is, before I get to the characters, because I really got to explain the plot before I introduce the characters in this anime. I highly suggest you watch it. If you don't want to get spoiled, stop watching, watch the anime, then rewatch this podcast. I'll have it on my Twitch account. I'll have it on my YouTube account. Well, anyway, plot. Whenever someone dies, they are sent to one of the many mysterious bars that are run by the bartenders called arbiters, which is like judge, inside a special tower in the afterlife. Once they're in the bar, wherever specific bar they go to, they must participate in death games with their souls on the line, the results of which reveals what secrets led them to their situation and what their fate would be afterwards. Basically, they play a game and the bartender watches them, judges them, and see what comes out, their sins, their virtues, what happened. Basically, the bartenders judge whether they get reincarnated or they get sent to purgatory, which is, it's their version of heaven and hell. Heaven is like, okay, I get to be reincarnated into something better, or I get stuck in purgatory forever. My soul doesn't get reincarnated. It's crazy. The series follows the main character, Decim. I call him Decim. Some people call him Decim. I call him Decim because the anime compared to sub and dub, it's a little iffy. Let's just call him Decim for now. He's the lone bartender of this particular bar where people who have died at the same time are sent to. So he receives pairs at a time, never a single person. He receives. I'll get into the other part later, but we've only ever seen one other bar, and he gets 1 to 2 people at a time too. His particular situation is he gets 2 people who died at the same time, not necessarily related, but sometimes they are related. And the bar is called Quindecim or Decim. He begins to question his own attitude in judging these souls in a dispassionate way. Basically, he doesn't understand human emotions, and basically he gets downloaded their memories of their death, and he uses those memories judging by their actions during the games, how he judges them to be reincarnated or sent down to purgatory, which they call the void. The second character in the beginning is called the black-haired woman, because you don't actually learn her name till pretty much the very end, because there's a human there who initially has no memory of her life at all, not her name or anything. She ends up working as an assistant in the bar, learning the methods that the judges use to judge human souls, and helping Decim learn about human beings. See, I say Decim, but some people say Decim, some people say Decim. Oh, jeez. I'll just say Decim just to get it out of the way. Sorry about that. Anyway, she tries to help him learn about human behavior. So basically, they kind of hint that she was a human that could not be judged, which is strange. But like I said, I'm not gonna get too much into spoilers. But as you watch sorry, it's only my second podcast. I'm used to commentary while I'm gaming, and I'm really throwing everybody off here. I'm sorry. Anyway, basically, it's little by little we learn more and more about her and why she ended up in Decim's bar. And not only this, on a side note, this anime has probably one of the most kick-ass intros ever. The song, the dancing, the images, it's just pure awesomeness. There's other characters too, other judges. There's Nona, who is basically Decim's boss, who looks like a young girl. She reports to another character, Oculus, who manages the arbiters. His eyes look like he sees the universe and everything at the same time. It's crazy. He's like on the 90th floor. Decim, I believe, is on the 15th floor. There is Ginty, who is another bar who runs more of a traditional Japanese style bar, while Decim runs like a very modern, jazzy, smooth bar. There's Clavis, who's actually like an elevator attendant who takes him between the floors. And there's Castra, who's just basically a woman who oversees death across the world and decides which souls are sent to which bartenders. It's pretty crazy. She wears a skull helmet, but there's not too much else we learn about her. I wish they did. And like I said, Oculus, who basically is the manager of all the judges, and he plays pool, which I know is based off the original idea of Death Billiards. but his pool balls are actually the shape of planets. It's actually pretty crazy. They're like they look like real planets, and it's insane. It's probably one of the most unique animes I've ever seen. And once I started watching it, I couldn't stop watching it. It was just that amazing. Okay, so basically, Death Parade is a psychological anime that doesn't really follow a storyline per se. Similar to Cowboy Bebop, like I was saying, Cowboy Bebop doesn't really have a storyline, but it has a lot of character stories. It every episode we're getting two different people coming into Deesum's bar, and they don't remember how they died. They don't know they're dead yet. That's the rule. He can't tell them they're dead until he sits them down. They drink the bar. Then basically they kind of realize they did die, but not until like they start playing the game. Because sometimes they think, oh, this is like candid camera. Oh, they're watching us, or they don't understand what's going on until once they start playing, then they realize we're dead. And then slowly but surely they get their memories about what happened. Sometimes it's sad, sometimes it's happy. It's really powerful and emotional. If you can't take it, then don't watch it. But like I said, spoilers. But it's really powerful. But in the background, you kind of see the storyline between the black-haired woman and Disum, which later on you learn that the black-haired woman's name is called Chiyuki, who used to be a like professional ice skater. And you'll see clues on this. And you'll see clues on this in the intro, the outro, and throughout the series until the last episode. Basically, the last two episodes are dedicated to her, and it's just that much more amazing. But we're not talking about episodes. We're talking about the basis of these animes without source materials. Now, back to Samurai Champloo. Like I said, it involved three main characters, Fu, Mugen, and Jean. I feel like I did Harry Potter a lot better because Harry Potter, all you gotta do is start talking about the story, and you can't stop. Me, I can't stop. I only did Harry Potter and the Four Houses, and I just kept talking about how I thought Ravenclaw was treated unfairly, but they're also full of bullies. Okay, so the episode begins, like I said, with Fu, who is trying to work as a waitress. She insults the village mayor's son. I think they call it a prefect, basically the son and his guard. And basically, he gets pissed off at her and he's gonna attack her. Mugen, who's there just drinking and whatever, like, you know, I said, he's a very vagabond type of character, begs for his help. Across the town, Jin, who kills basically the mayor's bodyguards because they're about to kill just like a common poor peasant. And, you know, he has strong morals. He acts like a traditional samurai. He enters the restaurant where Mugen actually mistakes him for the son's mayor's bodyguard, basically the mayor's bodyguard. But he just killed the bodyguard. Because basically the mayor was supposed to have this badass bodyguard, and he thinks Jin is the bodyguard, but Jin actually killed that badass bodyguard. So he wants to fight him because he wants to fight Mugen wants to fight everybody. So basically they had this awesome beginning fight scene where it's just awesome, and then the sun just starts burning the freaking restaurant, being like, I'm gonna kill you both, whatever. And basically, the local authorities, their version of authorities, knocks them out with coal gas. See, as I said, there's modern twists. They actually use coal to actually turn it into some kind of knockout gas, which is pretty awesome. They're about to be executed to death, but Fu, basically goes rescue them. But she says, only if you help me go on a quest to find the samurai who smells like sunflowers. Basically, she flipped a coin in the end. Heads, they kill each other and not help her. But tails, then they help her and then they can fight afterwards. And so basically, as you learn, it lands on tails, and that's where their adventure starts. And basically, like this one, there is a storyline, but it's kind of a weaker storyline. Basically, these two animes don't really have a strong storyline. She wants to look for the samurai that smells like flowers, but both Mugen and Jin have their issues, have their character arcs. Mugen just, his history with bad people. He comes from a prison colony. Jin, who has to deal with the fact that he killed his master in self-defense because his master couldn't stand that he was stronger than him. and they end up both facing like the most ultimate powerful person they could in the end. It's just that much more awesome. But basically, that's it. I could describe each episode in its entirely, but yeah, there's no reason to. Like I said, the podcast tonight was just talking about, is it better or is it not? So let's compare these now to, let's say, an anime that is more or less similar to their story. Let's look at Death Parade first. Psychological kind of anime. The one anime that I could think of that had strong psychological impacts, I believe, was Future Diary. Future Diary is about an anime where certain people have cell phones, or some don't have cell phones. Some have a diary. Some have something that you can write down messages, but from the future. And they learn, and they're basically, it's all about who survives in the end, who kills each other. The protagonist has this crazy girl who loves him, but she is psycho, like psycho. But basically, it's a good storyline. It can get a little frag here or there. It's kind of wild. I mean, you understand what's going on, but it gets a little out there at times. While Death Parade, it stays on solid ground throughout each story. Some similar to Future Diary, where they keep running into another diary user. But while the story can kind of get off kilter for a while in Future Diary, with Death Parade, it has a nice, solid story with every time they get a pair, they could be related. It could be like a boy who liked the girl that they both died at the same time, a stepson and a random woman who had a bunch of kids, but they both died at the same time, not appreciating what they had. Let's see here. There was also the first two. The first episode alone will probably kill you. A married couple who just misunderstood each other's intentions, and they both end up dying. And in the end, actually the beginning of the season shows that the judgments are not always right, because the woman actually lied about why they both, not why they died, but what the cause that led him to dying. She was trying to protect him because she didn't want him to feel the guilt of them dying, because she hid the truth from him. So she ended up getting sent to the void while he got reincarnated, which in the end, it should have been either they actually both got reincarnated, or at least the other way around. So that's where the black-haired woman, Chiyuki, comes into play, teaches Dsum about how to really understand human emotions. And that's what I thought, and what's amazing about Death Parade is Dsum, like the bartenders, they're not technically human. They're not real. They're actually mannequins. And they're like downloaded with what they have. So that's why they can't understand human emotions per se, but for some reason they're there to judge the human souls about whether they get reincarnated or they get sent down to purgatory. So to watch him grow throughout this entire season was quite amazing. And then we finally see in the end where Chiyuki, why she's there, it's just sad. And there's like aspects of the anime that has such beautiful quality. Like we've only ever seen two bartenders, two judges, because they didn't have time to delve into the other things. But each of them have special abilities. Dsum's, he manipulates these like fine strings. They're more like wires. It's based off an old Buddha story where Buddha sent down a spider to send down a string down to hell to rescue an innocent man. And when he started climbing the string and saw that the people of hell were trying to climb up behind him, he realized he had to do the right thing and break the string and let everybody fall down. So anyway, I got off topic for a moment. Anyway, his strings are beautiful, and he likes to make mannequins, because basically the human souls that come down to his bar, they don't have a body because you die. You have a soul. Basically, their souls are in mannequins. And what he does is, after he judges the souls and they go on to either reincarnation or purgatory, the mannequins are left behind. And what he does is he saves the mannequins, puts them in the image of the people that got reincarnated or sent out to the void, and keeps them. And when Chiyuki asks him later on, "Oh, what is this person? What or who is she or who is he?" He's like, "I don't remember." She's like, he's like, "I only get the memories for a certain amount of time of the souls, and then I lose them. That's why I make the mannequins so he can sort of remember, but not really." And it's just beautiful, like the way he explained it, like because he wants to understand human emotion to be a better judge, but he can't, and that's what she helps him with. And like I said, spoilers. In the end, like she finally gets judged because I'm not gonna say why she had to, like why she was there. I'll let y'all discover that on your own. But he keeps her mannequin personal next to him in the last episode, and it's just beautiful. And that's why, in this case, for a psychological anime, Death Parade anime without manga source, yes, it is better. It has a strong storyline, just like the way you would do when you make a TV show. It never got off topic. Everything just blended well. And that's why it's one of the perfect one season animes, which will be another topic when I talk about anime again. Because there's a lot of animes that got canceled, so they left one season. But some animes were meant to be one season, and Death Parade was definitely meant to be one season, and it was just that much more beautiful. I can't imagine it getting a second season. I can't. So Death Parade, yes, better than an average anime with source material. Samurai Champloo, more of a action-based historical anime with mixed with hip hop and modern influences. Like I said, each episode kind of is its own thing. It doesn't really blend together like the way Death Parade does. Or, okay, let's compare it. Like I say, I compare Death Parade to an anime with source material, Future Diary, because that's psychological. Samurai Champloo. If I would compare it to another anime that has source material, see, samurais fighting. Actually, I'm not aware of too many animes that have a historical. Oh yeah, actually, no, I can think of a few actually. Um, oh my god, I wasn't prepared for this and I forgot, but I do remember the basic storylines, and a lot of times a historical anime has a strong foundation, so it can keep up with it. But sometimes it can drag on. I'm thinking of one anime in particular where it was a good story, but sometimes the episodes were just too much filler. And because they were given more than one season, it can drag on for a while. Samurai Champloo, every episode, ooh, action packed or emotionally packed. Like one episode, they're trying to find money to eat, so they end up having to like entertain people, but then they actually end up fighting an assassin. Another one, they tricked Fu and they abandoned her, and one steals food, which is Mugen because he's a reckless guy. It's all about their own personal stories, their own personal beliefs and morals. Mugen discovers like how to control that rage inside of him, how he's an anti-hero. He acts like he doesn't care about things, but he does, and he fights for what he believes in. And he has an amazing showdown with another type of samurai who uses like a wind ability. It's like one of the few supernatural things we ever see in the show. There's not really any supernatural things about the show. Everything's more or less can explain by modern, like gunpowder, special swords. But this guy, he could throw like wind blades. It was crazy. And he beat him using a dirty trick. The end of his scabbard, his sheath, was an extra blade. So he pulls it out and he basically stabs him in the gut. So that was pretty cool, pretty nifty, and totally 100% Mugen. And Jin, fighting an assassin who is meant to kill Fu's samurai who smells like sunflowers. I'm not gonna spoil it on that part. I am telling you spoilers, but I'm not gonna spoil you about the samurai. And he fights him because in relation to Jin killing his master in self-defense. It's just strong, steady storyline foundation, but still freaking entertaining as hell with the modern music, the hip hop, the record scratching. you know, that much more amazing. I mean, how can you compare? Okay, sorry. I was looking off just to make sure that everything was looking good. In the end, better or not than a comparable anime with the source material? I say even. Because I've seen some good anime source materials that are based off historical, information, samurai type, lone wolf stories, the anti-hero, the lone ronin with the samurai without a master. I mean, seven samurai alone is really good. So for Samurai Champloo, I say dead even. Not better, not worse. But Samurai Champloo is still freaking awesome though. Death Parade, compared to other psychological animes, definitely better. Because I've seen several psychological animes. I can't name them off the top of my head, and it's embarrassing. But when it comes to story, the consistency, and the fact that intro kind of breaks up the seriousness of the actual show. The intro, the fun dancing type of music, the crazy like, oh, the every character is dancing all funny, but then the show is all serious and psychological, and it kind of makes it awesome. So, in the end, anime without source material, better or not? Definitely better overall. I'm not saying that all of them are, but in the instance of I found, more or less, yes. These two especially are in its own categories. You know, one season animes that were meant to be one season, animes that were produced, directed without any actual source material from mangas or comics. Amazing. And honorable mentions. Obviously, Cowboy Bebop, the creator from Samurai Champloo, who did Cowboy Bebop. Again, an anime without not really a strong storyline, but man, each character has such a powerful story behind them, and basically they become their own storylines in the entire season. It's just that much more amazing. And you know what? I think I've really explained it all like I want to explain. I mean, I can go into details about every single episode, every little detail about every single character. I mean, like in Death Parade, the other bartender that I was telling you about, Ginty, he has abilities to manipulate water into some sort of like weapons, but also like camouflage. That's how he makes his mannequins. And instead of mannequins like Decim keeps, he actually keeps these little like Japanese wooden dolls, or kind of like Russian dolls. You know what I mean? Where you open it and it gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And he gets his own version of the black hair woman too. This teen pop star loving girl who, she only thinks about, oh, I love this pop star, I love this pop star, and she ends up dying in the most embarrassing way, like slipping in the bathroom or something like that. But the fact that she was willing to like die for the pop star that actually died at the same time as her, because her partner was the pop star she actually loved. He decided he couldn't judge her just yet. He judged him, you know, sent to hell. Right, I'm waiting. But he couldn't judge her. He couldn't figure out how to judge her until the end. And in the end, he judged her until purgatory, which is sad. But you can see that it was hard for him to actually make that judgment, because at the end of that particular episode, he has a little wooden doll in her image. And he doesn't have a whole bunch of them. He doesn't have one of every single soul he's seen in this bar. Ginty only keeps a certain small collection of them, which, like, I guess, like Dsum, his memories, they once they get downloaded, they get flushed out, so he doesn't remember the souls that he judged before. But he makes a little doll of her, like a little Russian wooden doll of her, and he keeps it and polishes it and keeps it on his bar, because to, I guess, remind him that not everything is in black and white when it comes to judging souls, which is just another beautiful aspect of Death Parade. Now, I know I talked randomly. This was my first anime podcast, and I'll probably, for the next time I do an anime-based podcast, I would make a straight a straight script to stick with. I was trying to do a little ad lib, trying to get a little more familiar feelings about when I watched them for the first time. Death Parade, I watched on Hulu, and it was just it changed me. It was an anime that changed me to understand people's feelings and how they would be judged in the end. Like, there's a saying, and I actually learned this saying, believe it or not, from Naruto, from Kisame. He was a member of the Akatsuki. He told Itachi Uchiha, Uchiha Itachi, that you don't really know who you are until you die or you're faced with death. And in his death in the anime, spoilers, he's like, I finally know who I am, because he didn't tell the good guys where the bad guys were. He actually summoned sharks to eat them and kill, like, tear them apart. And he's like, he was happy and content to know that he knows who he was, who he actually is before he dies. So that's the whole premise of Death Parade. Who are you once you face the fact that you are dead? Who are you? Are you gonna cry? Are you gonna beg? Are you gonna plead? Are you gonna be in denial? And it was just that much more powerful. And Samurai Champloo, while not as powerful as that, it has some very strong emotions when it comes to all the characters, especially Fu, when she finally finds the samurai who smells like sunflowers. And it was so simple. It was nothing complicated at all. It was a simple thing that she just wanted to see him again and find out why. And that one simple, beautiful minute led to the whole craziness in the last few minutes of that episode, where the fight scenes and both Mugen and Jin almost die, and then they were gonna fight again in the end, and Fu basically keeps them together, and they leave with Fu. Like, you know, they didn't need to be together anymore, but they stay together. And simple, but great and beautiful. Not complicated and beautiful, but simple and beautiful. So each one of them had their own kind of beauty. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. But anyway, I've taken enough of your time. If you rewatch this on Twitch tomorrow or later on in your own time, God bless you. You were amazing to put me. This is only my second podcast. It's way different than doing gaming commentary, where I can play and then make quick jokes and, you know, funny lines. In this one, in podcast, I have to keep talking, and it's good practice. I mean, I'm sure I'm gonna get better and better every week, into a point where it's all gonna flow out naturally. Because as you can tell, I have a bit of a stutter. I worked pretty much my whole life trying to get rid of it. But thank you so much for watching, and I will be back on again, 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, 8 p.m. Mountain Time, or whatever time zone you're in. I will be playing Dead by Daylight, possibly with some friends. So until next week on the Mad Podcast, talk nerdy to me. This has been the Mad Tomato, and you guys have a mad week. Later.